right, everybody. Welcome to the Super Bowl in 2 weeks
The
edition
official
of.
off season has begun.
Yes, you're right about that. That's how I feel. The official first off-season episode of Under the Dome, because we still talk about last week's game, so that was still kind of in season, and I really don't want to talk about this upcoming game. That's 2 weeks. That was preordained by the NFL. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'm your host, Alan Ulrich, with my partner, Mr. ACDC himself, Brian Johnson. No, Sean Williams. Yeah, that's the best ACDC album. The best.
Yes, by far, heads and shoulders.
Yeah.
It completely changed their dynamic because it was the first one with Brian Johnson after the death of Bon Scott. It did, but it didn't completely transfer their sound to what it is now. But it solidified their place in rock and roll history by a long shot.
It was a change, and unfortunately, for AC/DC, it became the album where the suits, the A&R people in music, are like, "That's great, do it again."
Yeah,
and every subsequent album has tried to basically recapture the sound of Back in Black, at least for me.
Yeah, you're looking basically at dozens of albums with the 3-chord Angus Young over the top guitar stuff. Yeah, it's Angus Young joked in a interview one time. He said, "I've recorded the same album 20 times."
Yeah. And people like it. People like the sound. So it to me it's one of the groundbreaking albums for AC/DC. But at the same time, it's kind of been a capture. It's trapped them in a certain sound. They've never been able to recapture I don't know how to describe Bon Scott's version of AC/DC, but Bon Scott's Dirty Deeds Done Dirt Cheap, Big Balls,
Rocker.
Yeah.
Rocker.
Kind of off the wall humor, but hard rock sound.
Yeah.
That was more the Bon Scott era of AC/DC. Anyway, okay, so I don't know about anybody else, but the ending of that Packers-Bucks game pissed me off because it made me relive 2018's NFC Championship game. And you all know what I'm talking about. It was the flag, on third down. The no call for us, but the flag, the call for the Packers and the Bucks game. I'll be honest with you. I knew some bullshit was going to happen in the game before it started. I knew there was going to be a bullshit flag, and this has just been, for me, as I look at Tom Brady's career, this has just been, since the Tuck rule, stuff that's gone on for him his entire life. He either gets the call or doesn't get the call. Go back to 2013. Saints are undefeated. They play Tom Brady and the Patriots in New England on the game-winning touchdown play for the Patriots. What did we all see? Junior Gillette getting hooked around the corner in a headlock. His body's bent back, his arms bent back, and no call. Touchdown. Patriots win the game.
That was Kyrie Robinson's first touchdown, too.
Was it? I thought so. Because I know it was over Jabari Greer, and Jabari Greer just mistimed his jump by half a second. Because, he was fingertips away from knocking that ball away. But it was how does Tom Brady have that much time in the pocket? Well,
we have photographic evidence that says But I mean, what really upset me about that game so much was the fact the play calling towards the end of that game.
Yeah.
Peyton kept giving it to Brady and kept giving it to Brady and kept giving it to Brady. You can't defy a team like that.
Yeah, 2013. Yeah, you played
Yeah.
with fire one too many times. The defense kept giving the ball back to the offense, and the offense kept turning it right back to Brady, and you can't give him
Yeah.
that many chances.
It was like, I think, 4 consecutive 3-and-out drives, and we just kept giving it to him.
Well, and that's my criticism on the Packers in that game. The Packers, you got 3 turnovers in the second half on Tom Brady. You scored a total of 6 points off of your turnovers. The Bucs scored 14, just like they did last week against us. But I really question the thinking of Aaron Rodgers. And this is what we were talking about off the air. You know, you don't want to be a conspiracy theorist. You don't want to think this is like professional wrestling and everything's scripted. But for Aaron Rodgers and Matt LaFleur to call the plays they called and make the decisions they made when they got into the red zone, especially on third down, when Aaron Rodgers has a clear lane straight to the goal line. How many times have we seen Aaron Rodgers tuck it and run and go for it? Okay. And at worst, he gets tackled at the 2 or the 3, giving you the opportunity on fourth down to go for it.
Yeah.
Not only does he not run, he throws the ball, hoping, I guess, for a flag. Doesn't get the flag. Matt LaFleur doesn't go for it on fourth down, and he kicks a field goal. What the hell is the difference between being down 8 and being down 5 with a little over 2 minutes to play? The odds of you getting that ball back, even if you got all 3 of your timeouts, the odds of you getting that ball back are very slim that you're going to have enough time to get down the field to score a touchdown, not a field goal.
Yeah.
And I just can't believe they didn't even try for that touchdown. And it just like everybody's feeling the same way I do. If you don't want it to look scripted, don't do these kind of things that make it look damn scripted. Like this was going to happen. And that flag just getting thrown on third down after you let them mug receivers on both sides all day long, that's when you call a pass interference call. It kills me. It really kills me. Because
at least this time it wasn't us that got the screws put to us.
I know, but I relived it because I'm like, you didn't throw this is the thing that got me. You didn't throw the flag. The excuse I got in 2018, we're not going to throw a flag because the official doesn't want to make the call that decides the game. Guess what the hell you just did in that game? That was third down. You throw the flag. They're out of timeouts now, so they can't stop them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it killed me because you didn't give Aaron Rodgers the win. Because at worst, you don't throw the flag. They got a punt. Now Aaron Rodgers has no timeouts, has to drive down the field for a touchdown because your dumbass kicked a field goal. So you got to go down the field and score a touchdown. So you're not giving the game to Rodgers. You're just giving him a shot to pull his Hail Mary bullshit that he does.
Yeah.
But it just pissed me off. It really, really pissed me off because it's like, and there it is. There's the call. I expected this. This is exactly what I thought was going to happen. That's what happened.
I expected it more last week than I did this week. I expected our game to come down to the wire. And it to be that way.
Well, you don't turn the ball over 4 times, and you probably. I think if the Saints go ahead and score last week, we talked about this, but if Cook goes ahead and holds on to the football, and the Saints go and score a touchdown, then the flags would have come out a little bit on the secondary. They would have got to 20-27, and we would have had some problems scoring, and Brady gets in a position to tie the game. I think that's the kind of bullshit that would have happened in that game.
Yeah.
But regardless, I just feel like this is exactly what the league wanted. When he went over there, this is what they wanted. And they were going to make sure with calls and stuff, this is how it was going to happen. It's just, I'm just frustrated. I really am. I really am.
Well, I wouldn't have been any happier if Rodgers had beaten Brady and Rodgers was in it, because it's neck and neck which one of those two that I despise more. Of the final four, I really, for the sake of my friends, I wanted Buffalo to have the opportunity, but Buffalo would have had to have executed a flawless game plan against probably the preeminent team in the National Football League, and they just weren't able to do that.
Yeah. And here, the funny thing is about Buffalo. I talked about this with a friend of mine today who took a bet. She actually took the Bills and gave the other person she bet against 3 points. And I said, I bet you were pretty damn excited when it was 9-0, and then later in the end of the game when they scored again and they were getting close. They weren't going to win, but they were getting close. She's like, "Oh hell yeah, I was excited." Because I said Kansas City is almost like we're going to spot you some points, but we want to just do enough to keep us interested because we know we can score anytime we want to, but we're going to do just enough to keep us interested for a while because they're bored. If they just blow out a team, they're bored.
Well, I mean, I said it earlier this year. Playing against Kansas City is like when you play Madden against your 7-year-old nephew, and you say, "Okay, I'm gonna give you some points so that you stay invested in this game," and then you just come on and slaughter.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see how this game plays out because I'm pretty sure the league wants the torch passed. Okay, they're not going to they don't really want Brady to win. If Brady wins, that's nice for them, but it's more important that it's time now. This is the new GOAT that's coming.
Yeah. To have that Kodak moment after the game is over, where Brady walks out on the field and congratulates Mahomes, and how everybody in the known world can refer to it just as you just did as the passing of the torch to the next one.
Yeah, because Mahomes is going to be in a lot of Super Bowls, just like Tom Brady will be, and you're going to have this is what Brady's 10th.
Yeah.
Whether Mahomes gets there 10 times, he'll be the first team since the Patriots to go to back-to-back Super Bowls and win if he wins.
Patriots were the last to do it.
Yeah. So that's going to be the big storyline. So I'll probably watch this one. I haven't watched. Yeah, I watched last year's. I watched the 49ers and Chiefs last year because that was actually a good game to watch. I didn't watch, of course, Super Bowl 53. And I don't remember really. I did watch the Eagles one just because I wanted to see Brady's ass get beat. And I did watch the second half of the Falcons-Patriots Super Bowl when the Patriots started coming back. I watched that one. But I just haven't the Super Bowl hasn't been very appealing to me lately, and it's not just because the teams that have been in it. I don't know.
I can get more invested in it with Mahomes than I could with it just being basically a foregone conclusion in preseason training camp that Tom Brady would be there.
Well, yeah, I get that. And I see Calvin's point. Calvin he's tired of hearing about how unbeatable the Chiefs are. And I do get that. And I think the Chiefs are going to get picked apart in free agency soon.
Just
You
like
know,
we are, just like the Saints are going
well,
to.
and that's gonna take me to the next point. But the funny thing about the Super Bowl is I can watch NFL films of the first 15 to 20 Super Bowls over and over and over and over again, especially
Yeah.
the ones with John Facenda doing the voiceover, just because the music, the cinematography, the way the game was played back then. Those I enjoy watching that stuff.
Those
You
games
know,
were interesting because you really didn't have a preconceived notion as to how the game was going to play out and how this team was going to be able to take what the other team did and make their adjustments and what have you. The game used to be a lot more interesting. And then you come along to the Dallas and Buffalo Super Bowls where it was just basically a slaughter.
well, and that's what happens after '83. The '70 Super Bowls basically involve 6 teams. Okay,
Yeah.
the 3 from the AFC are the Dolphins, the Steelers, and the Raiders. Okay, in the NFC, it's the Cowboys, Vikings, and Rams.
Mm-hmm.
Every year from 1970 to 1979, it's one of those 6 teams. The only time you had oddball teams in there, you had the Redskins in 72, the Colts in 1970, and the Broncos in 77. But
Mm-hmm.
other than that, it was one of those teams matching up with one another. You know, Dolphins, Cowboys, Steelers, Cowboys, Vikings, Steelers, Steelers, Rams. It's Raiders, Vikings. It's those teams in that era. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and they were all. The NFL 75 seasons. The NFL book calls it the 6 bullies on the block. With 1980. The Steelers dynasty was gone. The Dolphins dynasty fell apart with the WFL, but the Steelers dynasty is gone. The Raiders are in a kind of a strange rebuild, real quick, with Tom Flores. So they appear in 1980 and 83, but the Cowboys are in decline. So now you're starting to see teams like the Bengals show up. The 49ers take over. The Redskins, and then once the '80s kick in, now it's the Bears, the Giants, the Broncos with John Elway. It's those teams, but that's where you start also seeing from 1982. Oh, I'm sorry, '83, beginning with the '83 Super Bowl. It's blowouts,
Yeah.
all the way from '84 to 1990. What?
2.
8? No. He passed 92 is the Cowboys and no, it's the Redskins and the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
Then
The wide right.
yeah. No, it's about 94. 94 is the last one because 95 this is Packers.
Patriots.
Packers Patriots. That wasn't a blowout. 94 I don't think really was a blowout either because I think that isn't that is that Steelers Cowboys or is that I might be wrong with the years, but
It's right in there somewhere.
yeah. But that's when the Super Bowl started getting close again. And it builds up to the 99 Super Bowl, which is the Titans Rams, where it was the last play of the game.
Yeah.
Then and from 2000 on you start getting all the close Super Bowls again. But that stretch for about a decade, the NFC was just kicking the crap out of the AFC every Super Bowl. Whoever the AFC team was, they were getting their ass kicked.
Yeah. Especially the Broncos.
Yeah. Elway got his ass kicked 3 times, and it really wasn't until he beat the Packers. This one's for John. Super Bowl.
That was a really good Super Bowl too.
I was pissed. I wanted the Packers to win that game.
I didn't.
Second.
I watched the whole pregame of that, and you could see by the way that they carried themselves that the Packers just didn't they didn't give. I mean, they did an interview with Brett Favre where he sits there and he does his John Elway impersonation and just laughs. I'm like, dude, that's disrespectful, man.
Well, they weren't hungry anymore. They thought that game was going to be a roll. You know, they were just going to roll over the Broncos. They weren't hungry for that one. That's why they lost it.
And that play at the end where Steve Atwater knocked himself out.
Yeah, and you know the night before, Eugene, not you, is it Eugene Robinson, the safety?
No.
He went to he ended up going to the Falcons. And I think it was the Falcons Super Bowl. Hang on a second. Safety who got busted. Let's see. I'm gonna find out who this was. Who got busted with a prostitute? Super Bowl. Eugene Robinson, yeah, and it was the Falcons one. It was the Falcons Broncos Super Bowl because he did play for the Packers. Then he was kind of like their Darren Sharper, who jumped ship in more ways than one, but he jumped ship over to the Falcons and helped the Falcons get to the Super Bowl, and he got busted with a prostitute the night before the game, the Saturday night before the game. Yeah,
yeah, and the
Calvin says that's half the league.
The dude who played for the Raiders.
Oh yeah, the one that lost his mind.
Yeah, just disappeared.
Mm-hmm.
Before the Buccaneers Super Bowl.
Yeah, they couldn't find him on game day. Yeah. Let's see. Raiders player who disappeared before the Super Bowl. Boy, it pops up as I'm typing it. Barrett Robbins.
Yep.
He was missing for 24 hours before the Super Bowl. Yeah, he showed up on Outside the Lines with Andrea Kramer. I don't know why he did it, but yeah, he wanted to go home, if I remember right. He just lost his mind and wanted to go home.
Yeah.
And that was the first thing, speaking of Tampa Bay, that was the first sign that we knew on game day at the Raiders this was not going to be their day. And that was a Super Bowl I was pulling for the Raiders. I'm not one of these guys, and this is why I'm not pulling for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers this year either. I'm not one of these guys like, oh, it's like the SEC. An SEC team wins a bowl game. That's a good thing. Shows how strong our division is. The hell with that. I'm like Conan the Barbarian when it comes to the other teams in our division when they play in a Super Bowl. I want to. How does this thing go? I just lost the line. Hold on a second here. I got to write this down because I'm losing my jokes.
One of my mentors referred to that thought process about pulling for the teams in the SEC in bowl games because they're in the SEC, and said that's like cheering for Satan because his name's in the Bible.
Right. Okay. This is my attitude when it comes to NFC South teams in the Super Bowl. I want the AFC team to crush your enemies, to see them driven before you and hear the lamentations of their women. That makes me happy. That's what I want to see.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what I enjoy. Because it's not just because the Bucs have Tom Brady. If the Bucs even had Jameis Winston still playing, I'd still want to see their ass get kicked, because they're the Bucs. They're our division. I love seeing them lose. I love seeing them. I pulled for whoever the Carolina Panthers were playing the Super Bowl.
Denver.
Well, not just Denver, but also when they were playing as the Patriots. I hate to say it, but I was pulling for Tom Brady because I did not want to hear shit about, even though Jake went to my school and I love Jake, I did not want to hear shit about, the Saints should have kept alone. I didn't want to hear all that. I wanted to lose. And of course the Falcons, I always want them to lose.
Of
I don't care
course.
I don't care what it is.
I
The only
do. I do kind of feel a kinship with the Bucks, in a way, because we carry the banner for the NFC South in terms of Super Bowl winners. I don't want them to be a two-time winner and us to only be one. Though.
I would enjoy being, the Patriots, how they were for 20 years in the AFC East, as the Saints doing that. Saints, I want everybody to say, oh, yeah, I guess it is easy for the Saints to go to the Super Bowl every year. They play in a loser division where everybody sucks. Hey, I'm fine with that. That makes me happy. So let's talk about this now. The Saints, now that's hit the offseason, Sean Payton has found it to be very important that you promote your coaches, okay? And they deliberately promoted Terry Fontenot to help him get a job with another team as a GM. Payton has out and out said that. They want to see their assistant coaches get promotions to move up, become head coaches in the NFL. So we lost Terry Fontenot. Now we get 2 third-round picks for that. We talked a little bit about this last week. You get a third round this year and a third round next year. Fontenot went to the Falcons. We lost Dan Campbell, who is now head coach of the Lions, and he did something. I still haven't seen the video, but apparently his press conference, he made a joke, and nobody understood that.
About biting the kneecaps off?
Yeah, and nobody got it, and they thought he was serious, and I'm like, oh, my God, what kind of world are we in now? So, here we go. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, Calvin. I'll leave that comment up for a little while. That's Michael Thomas for his comment he said during the game. Now Joe Lombardi is going to go to San Diego. I knew I was going to say it. The Los Angeles Chargers to be their offensive coordinator. So, and Aaron Glenn, I think, left to be defensive coordinator.
Then Detroit.
Yeah. So, you've lost several position coaches. We talked about the LSU deal, I think, last week as well.
Yes, we did.
Now, Dennis Allen did not get the job with the Eagles. Yeah, I know. I still think of San Diego. Dennis Allen did not get the job with the Eagles. They went with an unknown. Unknown. No. That Salah went to the Jets. The Eagles went with the offensive coordinator of the Colts. No, the Falcons got Arthur Smith. Falcons got the offensive coordinator of the Titans, Arthur Smith. But because, and this is the thing with the Eagles, when Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator, that's the year they went to the Super Bowl. That was the year that they felt like Wentz was playing at an MVP level. So they took the offensive coordinator from the Colts to be their head coach. To me, that signals they want to try and fix Wentz. And what better to get a guy that Frank Reich has been working with to bring that offense to try and bring back Wentz's confidence and Wentz's strength. But as far as the Saints, now we've got several positions we have to fill. I still want Mike Nolan back in some capacity because I like Mike Nolan as an assistant. I don't know where he would fit in with this, but Senior Bowl used to be the job fair for all these position coaches. We have a lot of open position coaches. I think you're going to see some changes with the way, aside whether Brees retires or not, I think you're going to see some changes with the way that the Saints coaching staff is going to treat each season from now on, with new ideas and new personalities. And, Joe Lombardi may come back even. Lombardi was the offensive coordinator with the Lions for a year, and then he came back to the Saints to be the quarterback coach. I don't know if Joe's going to stick with the line with the Chargers. Who knows? But Peyton has brought back assistant coaches, but Peyton has made it clear he likes the idea of having a coaching tree and all these assistants coming out. How do you feel about all these changes in the coaching staff?
I tend to lean towards the assumption that your coaching staff, in its own way, is equally as important as the roster that you assemble. You've got to have somebody to teach these guys and to get everything out of them that they're bringing to the dance.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like you said. I think there's going to be somewhat of a transition now, losing so many at one time. I'm kind of curious to see how that plays out myself.
Well, because you've got that going on. Drew Brees is, more than likely retirement, and we'll get into the reason why Matt Stafford's on the cover of tonight's episode. You're looking at all these position coaches that need to be filled, and then the Saints are going to be roughly. We haven't seen the official numbers yet, but let's just say $100 million over the cap that they have to shave off and have enough money to draft. Okay. So that's why I'm throwing it at 100. Some of us said about 90 million. Now,
Yeah.
Nick Underhill kind of did a thing where how the Saints can get under the cap without really gutting the roster, which, Twitterverse has talked about gutting the roster. I don't believe they will.
I don't either.
I think they're going to follow more of what Underhill suggested. You take guys like Ramczyk and Lattimore, you extend them. Okay, so you're not paying that fifth-year option, which is a higher cap number. You give them a huge signing bonus. You prorate that signing bonus over the length of the contract with the bulk of it in the back end, so you can get a small cap number for both of those guys this year. Okay? You take players like Cam Jordan, Teron Armstead, let me think, who else? Andres Pete to an extent. Who else did he had about a half dozen players in? Taysom Hill, a couple other guys whose names aren't popping in my head right away, and you restructure their deals. Again, pushing money, giving them a signing bonus, pushing them money more towards the back end. That way you free up even more cap space. You shrink the cap number.
Yeah.
I think that's what Loomis does between now and March 17th, I think, is the deadline that the cap you have to be under the cap because that's the beginning of the new year. I think where you see the Saints getting rid of players or not bringing players back, I think you see guys like, and we've talked about this before, Patrick Robertson, Craig Robertson, Jared Cook, who they've already said isn't going to come back. I think those are the kind of players you see leave. Nick Easton probably retires because of concussions. If he doesn't retire, let him go because you can't afford him as a backup. You have to have somebody cheaper as a backup. Malcolm Brown is a possibility for a restructure if they don't let him go outright because of his age. So you're left with guys in free agency that you're going to have to sign. I know you don't know many of the names that are on the list, but the biggest names that are on the list are Sheldon Rankins, Jameis Winston. Michael Thomas is somebody else that you can restructure his deal and push some more money to the back.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that, what he said during the game in a second. But there's a couple other guys. I just forgot their names, but there's like 3 or 4 players that you have to really think about how we're going to make money to bring these guys back. And that's going to be the tricky part. Oh, Marcus Williams. That's one of them. Marcus Williams is somebody I know they want to bring back. So he's probably a priority to try and sign. But being an unrestricted free agent, I don't know if somebody's going to grab him first, and the Saints just are not going to be able to match that number. And you really don't have a backup plan because I don't think you bring back DJ Swearinger. So did you see the tweet from Michael Thomas?
I did not.
Okay, during the game, Michael Thomas, it was about a play where I think it was right before halftime. Apparently, Brady threw a deep pass and nobody was in coverage. The safety wasn't in coverage. And that's when the Bucs got a big play for a touchdown. And Michael Thomas commented, if you don't think the guy's got the arm strength to get the ball out deep, you don't press cover. You press cover, guys. You don't really drop back to protect it. And everyone says, oh, he's dissing Drew Brees. And Thomas followed up with, y'all, I'm going to have to get a burner account because y'all take everything I say and do something with it because everybody said he was dissing Drew Brees. I don't think he was. I think he really was commenting about the game. I'm going to have to find the exact quote because I really don't remember what the hell it was. But anyway.
Well, I mean, after the Saints Buccaneers game, you started to see the details come to light about just exactly how banged up Brees was. You started to see that Michael Thomas was going to have to go through 2 surgeries, but he wanted to play to try to be there for Brees. And I don't think you do that to somebody that you don't respect completely.
Exactly. That's how I looked at it too. But Thomas can't leave Twitter alone. We're in a Twitter generation. These players, the players that are in the NFL now, all Twitter, TikTok kind of social media people. And they say and do things like there's not the whole world watching them.
Yeah.
And, you could talk about Juju Smith-Schuster, a player who's probably going to be a free agent with the Steelers, who I like a lot, but, he's dancing on TikTok and he's dancing on logos and that kind of shit. And with that, you've got a lot of immaturity that shows up on there where people like you and I and others look at this and go, dude, really? You can't say this now because everyone's going to analyze everything you say. You can't just talk shit like you're on the street.
Well, and at the same time, this entire generation, not just NFL or NBA or Major League Baseball, all of these kids I'll call them kids, from this generation, they have grown up in a world where you don't necessarily have to take responsibility and ownership for the stupid shit you put out there on social media. You can do whatever you want to do. You can say whatever you want to say, and there's no repercussions. There's no blowback that you have to deal with.
I mean, when I was 14 years old and when I was a teenager and stuff, I thought Death Wish and Death Wish 2 were 2 of the greatest movies ever made on film. And I mean, oh yeah, that's how I wanted to be Paul Kersey, but I know today you're a friggin' idiot if you think that, that's a fantasy. That's not reality. I didn't even see the remake of Death Wish because of that very thing. It's like that appealed to my immature, irrational 14-year-old brain that was still developing that, somebody breaks the law, you just shoot them, because vengeance makes me feel good, like in the movie Red Dawn. You remember C. Thomas Howell where, the guy, the pilot says, all that hate's gonna burn you up, boy. And he goes, keeps me warm. And he's like doing a gun thing. I mean, who didn't go, yeah? But that's a movie. That's not, it's just, you just can't be that way. And unfortunately, with social media, you get to see how immature these people are, even though
the vast majority of them aren't kids.
No, that's what I said. Even though they physically grew up, mentally, they're still that 15 and 16-year-old dude. And it's just, you need a Red Dawn. Yeah. I tell you what, my friends and I, when we were in high school, we must have quoted that movie 1,000 times about pissing in the radiator. I mean, just everything about that film. It was just that was awesome. That was an awesome.
And at one time, that film held the record for the most on-screen death scenes of any movie ever made.
No. It's every time somebody makes a reference, that's my movie. That movie I quoted a lot. I quoted Roadhouse a lot. Don't ask me why.
Patrick Swayze was cool, man.
That movie was
right up until he did Ghost.
I went with a girl I was dating to go see Dirty Dancing.
Oh, that's a mistake.
Well, I wanted to get laid, so but I went and saw Dirty Dancing with her, and I'm thinking to myself, he's the bad boy. He's in black. Of course, he drives a black car. If she goes to the other side of the tracks to go see him, I'm going to lose it. And that's exactly what she does. I went, oh my God. And I think I said it too loud. I'm like, you actually went across yes, Calvin. Avenge me, boys. Avenge me. Oh yeah. We made jokes about being thrown into camps all the time. So yeah. But
you never cry again, boy.
Oh, I just but yeah, that was just too much for me. And my wife, of course, loves Dirty Dancing. It hit a lot of chords with women, but it's funny because we're talking about Patrick Swayze and what was her name? The actress Jennifer Grey. Yeah.
They were in Red Dawn together.
They were in Red Dawn together, right? That first movie they went together, and she was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and then she had some kind of plastic surgery, and she was never the same.
Yeah.
But I always like Leah Thompson, but that was me. I like Leah Thompson, Red Dawn, Leah Thompson.
Fast Times, not Fast
no,
Times.
No.
Back
to the Future.
No, the one that she was in with Tom Cruise. All the Right Moves.
All the Right Moves. Yes.
Stefan Georgievich.
Yeah.
That movie was the vehicle that what was his name? Craig T. Nelson. He had that series for so long of being the college coach.
Yeah. He's basically playing the same role.
All the Right Moves was what propelled him to that role.
Yeah. Oh, boy, we're talking about all these movies I went and saw in the theater and everything because that's what you did as a teenager in the 80s. I mean, that's where you went. I mean, I saw those in the theater, and I also saw them at the Dollar Show. Where with the second run movie state, where you go to the theater and they haven't mopped the floor in years, so your feet stick the whole time you walk in there because it's all the drink syrup. And no, it's not because of that kind of movie theater, but it's all your feet stick to the floor because they don't clean that shit. But it's $1 movie, you're gonna go see the thing, so yeah.
I can remember going to see Coal Miner's Daughter in a drive-in that I walked through the pay toll lane, walked in and sat around the swing sets that was up at the front and watched Coal Miner's Daughter.
Stop making that noise. You sound like a big old bear growling. Yeah, I've seen Coal Miner's Daughter too. You say on a swing set? What are you? John Travolta in Grease? Were you singing Sandy while you did that?
Stranded at the drive-in,
Yeah.
branded a fool.
Yeah. I mean,
What will they say Monday at school?
one of my favorite things. Great. Hey, in the bar, in one of the bars I went to in college, you played Summer Nights or You're the One That I Want in the bar or Grease Lightning. You're watching college age students doing all the scenes from that movie because everyone's seen those films. I mean, a bunch of fraternity guys going, "Go Grease Lightning, you burn up the quarter mile." Yeah, I mean, oh yeah, or the Born a Hand Jive. Everybody doing,
Yeah, I couldn't do that.
oh yeah, you could do all that stuff. Yep. And I embarrassed myself enough tonight. Anyway, how did we get in this? We start going on a movie tangent, but we're talking social media. So my attitude with Michael Thomas, of course, is because of the social media and the immaturity of social media, people read way too much into stuff, and I think just like Alvin Kamara in 2019, how everybody in 2020 didn't want to pay him. We're talking about trading him and getting rid of him because he did not play well. And they're like, oh, look, he's going downhill.
Yeah, and they refuse to process the fact that the guy was hurt. Yeah. Just because that's not something that was put in every headline, every news cycle, every day. Right. They don't know this, and they're speaking out the side of their neck.
Yeah.
So, social media was the reason that I wrote the thing that I did about Drew the other day.
Exactly. And I get that. So I think Thomas comes back healthy in 2021. We saw how he played with Taysom Hill. He was the go-to guy for Taysom Hill again.
Absolutely.
He was the go-to guy for Teddy Bridgewater in 2019. I think you need to have a Michael Thomas with this transition to whatever quarterback would go to, and that's where I'm going with this before we got sidetracked by movies. But I think you're going to need a Michael Thomas and an Alvin Kamara to help whoever takes over at quarterback next year to make sure they don't become a Sam Darnold or Marcus Mariota or, these quarterbacks who get ruined in that first year as a starter. I
think that it bodes well for the franchise that at least at this point in time, it's looking like your choices for quarterbacks, if indeed Brees does call it a day, your choices are going to be two guys that both have been under center. Taysom not so much as Jameis, but you have guys that have that experience as a starter in the league. Now, I would not feel that way about Taysom were it not for the stretch, the 5-game stretch this year, and with a few exceptions like his ball control, I think he did probably about as well as, probably a little better than what most people anticipated him being able to do.
Yes, he was more accurate than people thought.
Yeah.
That's what drives me crazy. We keep calling him Tim Tebow. Tim Tebow hasn't seen 70% completion percentage probably since his days on playground football.
Yeah.
And Hill's throwing 70% completion rate in an NFL game.
You can say what you want about the guy. As these games progressed, he was making better decisions. He was making better choices. He was making better plays. Now, I absolutely think that there needs to be a premium put on him understanding the position that he puts his team in when he turns the ball over. That's something that he is absolutely going to have to get a handle on if he is indeed to be the starter.
Right. And, Calvin's right. He was never, Tebow was never close to being accurate. He had no fundamentals as a passer in the NFL. He really didn't. He had a bad delivery. Danny Werfel actually was a more complete passer than Tim Tebow, and Danny Werfel threw a shot put ball. He had no RPMs on his passes. But had the Philadelphia game not go the way it did, the turnovers are the only thing people would be harping on with Hill. And ironically, that's my issue with Jameis Winston. I am deathly paranoid. I've been fighting with people on social media about this. They're all convinced that Jameis Winston played for a crap team, and we're going to get him and put him on a good team. He's become a good quarterback. And when I tell them Tampa was not a crap team, this is basically the same team from last year playing in the Super Bowl. Yeah, I know they got AB and Gronk, and they got Shady McCoy, and they got Fournette. But except for Fournette, in the playoffs,
those other guys have been non-factors.
Yeah, exactly. They haven't been. You got a new left tackle. That was your first-round pick, okay? Granted, you got a tackle. But Sue was there last year. Shaq Barrett had 19 and a half sacks last year.
Mm-hmm.
Devin White and Levante David both were there last year. Okay, Antonio Winfield Jr. is Winfield Jr.
Antoine Winfield.
I knew I was getting it wrong. Antoine Winfield Jr. is a rookie. I get that. But the rest of that secondary was there last year.
The difference, I would put it to you and feel confident in saying this, the difference between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team of a season ago and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team that is going to be playing in the Super Bowl is the decision-making process at the quarterback position.
Exactly. Brady was good for 4 more wins than they got last year. They were 7-9 last year. They were 11-5 this year. 4 more wins. The difference was 30 interceptions and how many pick sixes. That's not on the defense. When you turn the ball over 30 times, that's not all on the defense. Brady took it from 30 interceptions to 12. That is good enough for 4 wins, running the same offense, running with the same coaches. You basically are cutting down opportunities for the other team to score points because you're not turning. How did we lose to the Bucs in the playoffs in the first place? We gave up 21 points on turnovers. Turnovers decide the game. I agree, Calvin. Brady is doing more things that he's comfortable with in the playoffs. But my point is, just to get to the playoffs, just to win again, you're not giving the other team opportunities to score because you're not throwing interceptions and you're not throwing pick sixes, and that's what Winston does.
And I'm anxious to see what a year in this system, a year with Peyton, a year with that coaching staff, LASIK surgery. I'm curious to see how all of this might possibly work to benefit him. And
he's got it's the game here.
Yes.
That's what has to change. He has to stop being a gunslinger. He has to take what the defense is giving you, even though Peyton is just as aggressive as Bruce Arians. He has to understand the defense he sees pre-snap, and then it changes at post-snap, make the adjustments, know what's going on, know how to move safeties, and don't just trust your arm. The effort, I'm just going to throw it and fit it in that tight window. That's what gets him in trouble. When he gets that attitude, I've got the arm strength. I can throw that ball through a tight window, and my receiver's going to catch it. Nobody else will. And those defensive backs jump on it because he misunderstands leverage and he misunderstands the coverage. It's just, that's the issue. I think he is to an extent. Calvin is Peyton truly a QB whisperer because I think Taysom Hill completing 70% of his passes or more and looking like an NFL quarterback compared to how he looked when he came in, back in 2017. And when we saw him in preseason of 2018, no, I'm sorry, 2018. No, he came in 2017. But
Mhm.
we saw him preseason 2018 and 2019. The progression we've seen um, with Taysom Hill, I think he is to an extent, but I don't think he can correct the decision making process that I'm going to force the ball in. Hill's problem is he doesn't have a fast enough clock. He holds that ball way too long and waits until the guy is open as opposed to throwing him open. And I think Winston's just the opposite problem. So that's my biggest fear about Winston is I think he's an uber talented player, but he's also an uber mistake prone quarterback. And he will cost you nearly as many games as he will win for you. And that is a huge concern. If we, I don't think Saints fans, Rosoff, can handle this. I really don't. I mean, you were pissed off that Drew Brees threw 3 interceptions in a playoff game. How are you going to feel when Jameis Winston throws 3 interceptions against the Falcons and causes us to lose despite the defense sacking Matt Ryan 8 times?
Yeah.
How are fans going to react to that? I mean, that's the issue that we have to be thinking about. That's a
Well,
real issue.
most fan base is going to be those people that are screaming bloody murder. Put Winston in. Put Winston in, and then Winston goes in and just completely shits the bed. And this is not what I wanted. Well, it's because you're stupid and you don't know.
Well, I'm worried what you're gonna see with Winston is game one against a good team. Winston throws for 500 yards and 5 touchdowns. Game two against a sorry ass team, Winston goes
Five
10,
interceptions.
5 interceptions, 10 of 23 for 100 and something yards and 5 interceptions.
That's but to that point, that's why you want to keep your Michael Thomas. That's why you want to retain your Alvin Kamara. The weapons that you have in place that will aid in be it Winston or be it Taysom that will aid in the transition onto a new quarterback.
Well, and that's where I think Calvin wants to go with Michael Thomas. He wants to get draft picks, any more talented receivers. You cannot go into 2021 with Thomas and Sanders, your top receivers, and your first one off the bench is a Marcus Callaway or Traquan Smith or Deontay Harris. You cannot go with that kind of wide receiver core with Taysom Hill or Jameis Winston as your starting quarterback. You need to bring in top draft picks. You're going to have to go get a top tight end like a Kyle Trask, not Kyle Trask, the Florida tight end. I was thinking of the Florida quarterback, but you have to get the tight end from Florida, or you go up and go get Waddle from Alabama, or you get I don't know if Chase is going to come out from LSU, but someone like that. You need to get a top receiver who can grow with your quarterback, because you can no longer just get the bag boy from Bromart and or Piggly Wiggly or Publix, whatever you want to go for a grocery store, and think the quarterback's going to turn. Peyton's system's going to turn that quarterback. Kyle Pitts, thank you. I couldn't think of his name. But yeah, you need to get those kind of receivers to help either of those quarterbacks. Okay, even if you're not getting receivers in the draft, you want a decent veteran QB, you're going to have to get something worth trading. Here's the thing, and that's a good segue into the point of the show, an hour into it. So the rumor is Matthew Stafford may be available. The Lions may be rebuilding, obviously. Your idea of Matthew Stafford? I see you shaking your head no.
I for the New Orleans Saints at this point in their development and in terms of what Stafford has left, I don't think that would be a good idea. I really don't. Uh, Stafford is beat up. He's in quarterback terms, he's old, and I think you're just basically putting a band-aid on a headache by bringing in a Stafford.
Well, and my attitude with Stafford is he's 32. I get that, Um, you go get Stafford if you think you can make one or two more runs with this core basically intact. You're not going into you're not willing to sacrifice some years for Thomas or Kamara going 8-8 or 7-9 with the idea of maybe we can get a winning season out of this, but we've got to start retooling and getting more draft picks and building up through the draft.
Well, when it comes right down to being open to possibly trading to Michael Thomas, I am not.
Yeah, I'm not really either because I don't. There's no one there to replace him. It's not like when we
Yeah,
traded Brandon Cooks. When we traded Cooks, Thomas was there to replace him. I would feel better if we already had a number one receiver to replace Thomas with. If we had already gotten a Devontae, I'm sorry, a Waddle, Jason Waddle, or Devontae Smith. Yeah, but I mean, you've got one of the top receivers of the draft. I would not feel comfortable going to the 2020 season without Thomas having just Sanders, Harris, Callaway, Smith as my top receivers coming back. You have to get a receiver from somewhere. I would rather see the Saints draft a receiver and also sign one in free agency.
yes.
I think you do both. I want to see them draft a tight end. I think Adam Trotman is probably going to be groomed to replace Hill, Josh Hill, not
Yeah.
Taysom, but Josh Hill as your receiving tight end / blocking tight end. I don't think he's the number one tight end for this offense. I think you need a tight end that runs like a receiver. You need to find yourself a Travis Kelce, the obnoxious ass from the 49ers, Kittle. I hate saying his name, but you need to find that kind of receiver, that kind of tight end. I think that's where you need to go with this offense. And that's going to be it. We don't have very many draft picks this year because we traded one last year. We'd lost one because of COVID. And, I just don't. We traded another one this year to keep Quan Alexander, who I think we need to keep. I think
Yes.
Alex Anzalone goes on his way. I think Quan and Demario Davis are your starting linebackers.
But there too, with the injury to Alexander, you're looking at the very real possibility that you don't start the season with him next year because he got hurt so late in the season.
But I think that's where you have to see where you are with the linebacker we drafted this year, who I just number 53. I just forgot his name. Bond. Yes. You have to see where you are with him. He got a lot of playing time towards the end of the year. I think a full season of training camp, him working with the defense all year long, and again, this is why I want Mike Nolan back on the team. I think Bond has a good shot of being that third linebacker, and can fill in for Quan until Quan is healthy again. It's an Achilles injury. I thought Sheldon Rankins came back from his fairly quickly. I think you can see that with Quan. I do think we need more depth, but that's where you start looking at the cheap free agents who will probably be let go from other teams as they struggle to get into the cap. Like I said, with Stafford, I see that as you're making one or two more runs. You're trying to go with that core. I don't think Deshaun Watson's a realistic possibility just because the things we talked about.
Yeah.
Watson saying that he wants to go to the Jets first or the Dolphins tells me that he's not interested in winning first. He's got another agenda in mind. Because the Jets have been 61 years of failure, interrupted periodically brief periods of competence. You're not going to turn that franchise around. Good luck. I like that coach that they hired, but that team has not been relevant since the New York Sack Exchange era. And even then, that was questionable.
Yeah.
Ken O'Brien brought some credibility. I thought, when Bill
Freeman
Parcells,
McNeil.
when Bill Parcells and Johnny Hector from New Iberia, when Bill Parcells took over, and then Grow for that 1 year, I thought they were turning a corner for a little while, but the rest of the time, that franchise has been a Richie Kotite, what was that Notre Dame coach who had the Jets fight song he came up with?
Charlie Weiss.
No, not him. I'm talking about way back. South Carolina, Lou Holtz. Lou Holtz lasted almost as short a time as the Falcons coach Bertrino lasted. I think he didn't even last a whole season. I mean, that's the Jets. That's who they are. They're the butt fumble team. I mean, that's the franchise. So, yeah, they go pick up a linebacker from the Jets. They make all pro to say, you're right. You think about it, Vilma and Davis both came from the Jets. I mean, but yeah, the Jets are basically a farm club for other teams to pick their good players from. I mean, Jamal Adams goes over to Seattle. That's who the Jets are. They will never be a winner. Even when they win, you feel like any minute now they're going to figure out a way to blow this. They're going to be the Jets.
Even when they win, they scored more points, but they lost the first pick of the draft. Their wins always come with a caveat.
Right. So, that's why I put Winston out of there. Now, speaking of taking a player from the Jets, I wouldn't mind trading for Sam Darnold. I don't know what it would take to trade for him, but I think Sam Darnold, what he's got going for him is the rookie contract. And he was a talented player. And I think that you could get that's a player I'd like to see Sean Payton fool with and see if he can do something with. And if worse, he doesn't work out, doesn't kill your cap, you let him go. You don't bring him back. But Sam Darnold's somebody I think is worth exploring because I think the Jets are going to make a move for Watson or something. They're going to do something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, they would be fools not to. If the Jets are the first team on Deshaun Watson's list, they would be fools not to entertain that.
Right. And it gets fans in the stands whenever they let fans back in. A reason to get excited. They can take their Brett Favre jersey that they bought in 2008 and just put Watson's name on top of it. And then you got a Watson jersey on.
Yeah.
But, and then Aaron Rodgers has now been talked about as the fantasy quarterback because he made the statement at the end of the game, I don't know what happens to me after this season because they drafted this kid Love. It's clear they want to get him. I don't know if they bring me back or not. I can't imagine the Packers cutting bait with a guy who's going to win the MVP this year. It would be that's worse, 100 times worse than the Steelers moving off of Neil O'Donnell after O'Donnell took them to the Super Bowl. Okay. The hell with Donald to New Orleans. Wrong place for him seeing ghosts and random shit.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a good fit.
I just threw Donald out there because that's a guy that is probably going to be looking for a starting job. Josh Rosen, we talked about him last year, when it was obvious, or 2 years ago, it was obvious the Cardinals were going to go with Murray. Rookie contract quarterbacks are very tempting because they don't cost much against your salary cap. And that's the only reason why I brought it up. Hell, if the Texans want to work out a three-way trade like we're talking about with this will get Calvin going. They want to talk about a three-way trade with the Jets or the Dolphins. I'm sorry, a three-way trade with the Dolphins. Sam Watson to the Dolphins, get some picks, and then we'll send somebody. I gotta think of a player worth sending over there. We'll send, Janoris Jenkins, or we'll send Andres Pete, or someone to the Texans. No, yeah, to the Texans, but we get Tua. Tua comes to New Orleans, and then we work out a trade that way. Or no, we send Janoris Jenkins and Andres Pete over to the Dolphins, and they get Tua. Somehow we'll work this out. I got to think of it. I got to figure out this scenario in my head. But it's an NBA kind of thing. But I will take Tua because apparently that everybody thinks Tua is a bust. He can only throw short passes. He won't throw deep and all this stuff. That's the guy I want to see if Peyton's a QB whisperer, and go ahead and get Tua. Because, I knew Calvin was like, Tua? No, I'm good. Oh, man. No. We got to figure out how to get Tua. Anyway.
No Crimson Turd quarterback has ever been anything in the league since Stabler.
Stabler and Namath, is that what you're going to say?
Yeah.
We haven't done well with Crimson Tide quarterbacks anyway. The last one we had was Richard Todd.
Yeah. After New York had squeezed everything out of him.
Yeah, I just would enjoy seeing the LSU fans lose their friggin' mind because Tua is now our starting quarterback. How come we can't get Burrow? So, anyway.
All right. Well, I got to make the donuts.
I know. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. I know it wasn't much of a show, but that it is what it is. I mean, Peyton had his State of the Saints address. He talked about how much he likes the quarterbacks in his room, and I didn't expect anything less. I expect both these quarterbacks back, and that's going to be the real battle. The curious thing would be, do the Saints take a quarterback in the draft, which I think is highly likely this year, and we could talk about that as the draft goes on. For Sean, for me, no Pro Bowl this weekend. Some kind of Madden shit is going to be on Saturday or Sunday. I'm not watching that. I'm not even watching the whatever show that is on XD Disney or whatever the hell that's supposed to be. But yeah, I knew Calvin would like that. I take that back. I'm with you, Alan. Yeah. Anyway, so there's no real football this weekend. Next weekend, of course, Super Bowl. And then after that, where are we talking about? The Combine. I think Senior Bowl might be this week. I don't know if there even is a Senior Bowl.
There is.
There is? Okay.
I believe so.
Yeah, so we're going to be talking about all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be draft and free agency shit starting up already. So we'll be talking about that next weekend. Senior practice is going on now. Okay, so the Senior Bowl's this weekend. Yeah. All right. Okay, so we'll talk about that next week and whatever else comes to our infertile minds. Anyway, thanks for joining us tonight. We'll see you next time on Under the Dome. Good night, everybody.